Welcome to my American History Notes, where I discuss conclusions I've drawn from studying American history. Um, basically, a survey surface. You'll want to dig deeper into certain subjects and have your own conclusions about them from your own studies. So you might not like what I say or agree with it. That's okay as long as you're doing your own study and you come to your own conclusions and not just what somebody else's opinion was and wants you to think a certain way. I don't want you to think my way. It's up to you. I want you to have a conclusion, have an opinion based on evidence. So we're going to talk starting about the Spanish American War today. Very important event in American history. Powerful men revived the old concept of manifest destiny from the Polk era and said it was the destiny of the United States to expand beyond its borders. McKinley desired to mediate between Cuba and Spain. Hearst paper then printed the contents of a letter from a Spanish minister in Washington to a friend, insulting the president, claiming that McKinley was only interested in the opinions of the electorate and would move any way the wind blew, if I may paraphrase. That was February 9th, 1898. Then on February 15th, the battleship USS Maine mysteriously blew up in Havana Harbor, killing most of the crew and inflaming public sentiment. While a commission investigated the sinking, McKinley quietly asked Congress for a $50 million defense appropriation to get ready for the war. The nation ran headlong to war, and McKinley, the politician, was swept up with it. William Jennings Bryan gave a speech against America becoming an imperial power, just as he would later give a speech against America holding on to an empire. However, being a patriotic American, he put aside his principles to serve as a colonel in the war to come. The American ambassador to Spain announced that Spain was ready to grant Cuba self government. But no matter, McKinley then asked Congress for a declaration of war against Spain, which he received. No president since World War II has followed the Constitution on that point, we can honestly say, no matter what one thinks of McKinley's action. He followed the lawful procedure. The war lasted less than 4 months. Commodore Dewey destroyed the Spanish fleet in Manila Harbor in the Philippines. U.S. Marines landed at Guantanamo Bay in Cuba. Troops landed in Puerto Rico. The Spanish would call this war the disaster, as they lost the last of their foreign empire that surrounded the world 300 years earlier. Even though the War Appropriation Bill had forbidden the annexation of Cuba, McKinley was able to report in his second annual address to Congress that the American flag was flying over that island nation. He also annexed Hawaii to add to our new empire. Almost immediately, the Filipinos revolted against our rule. However, in an insurrection that cost thousands of Filipino women and children their lives. Much later, in my lifetime, Admiral Rickover became interested in the USS Maine explosion and concluded in 1976 that it was a coal bin explosion, an accident, and no mine or torpedo sent by the Spanish. A Spanish ship even helped in retrieving the survivors. However, a third belief is that Americans set a bomb off to give a cause for war. This is the least appealing of the three conclusions, as it, along with Operation Northwoods during the Kennedy administration, implies that our own government would kill American citizens to get us into war. This we must not accept and hopefully is not true. One of the heroes made by the press in the Spanish American War fought with the 1st Volunteer U.S. Cavalry Regiment, which they termed the Rough Riders. Theodore Teddy Roosevelt commanded the unit after the first commandant, Colonel Leonard Wood, was promoted. Originally, their name was Wood's Weary Walkers. The Rough Riders, the term first coined in Buffalo Bill's Wild West show, was also the name of the book about his unit that Roosevelt wrote. They are considered to have played a part in the assault on Kettle Hill, just north of San Juan Hill, during the assault on the city of Santiago, along with the all black unit, the 10th Cavalry, made famous in earlier conflicts with American Indians on the plains. The Filipino resurrection, the Filipino insurrection lasted until 1902 after the U.S. did not acknowledge an independent Philippines and they did not receive their independence until 1946. McKinley received the Republican nomination to run for a second term, along with vice presidential candidate Teddy Roosevelt, who was now governor of New York. They ran against William Jennings Bryan again and his running mate Adlai Stevenson. As his second term started, he was assassinated by an anarchist named Neon F. Zolgotz at the Pan American Exposition in Buffalo, New York. He died on September 14, 1901, 8 days after he was shot. We'll talk about Theodore Roosevelt's term in office next, the era that he was in. And I thank you for watching. I hope you study American history.